Did you ever meet Pun or the other members of Terror Squad after this situation?
Yeah, I met Pun once or twice in the studio. In Cuban Links, late '90s or so, or something like that. But not to the point where we had a relationship. It was more like, because he was recording. He was actually recording. Him and Cuban Links were actually recording at the Japanese guy's house that I was telling you about.
Oh,
That lived
wow.
in Queens. That used to mess with Nas.
Yo, wait, was that DJ Honda?
Nah, this cat named Nori. He used to
Mm.
do club music. He used to do club music and stuff like that too. He kind of was going back and forth with the hip hop and club music and stuff like that. But he was a good producer too. Like I was kind of upset why he stopped producing. He wound up getting a job with ABC doing technical shit. You know what I'm saying? Slowed down his creativity, I guess, and stuff like that. But this guy could have did some work. He really could have did some work in the business, like facts. You know what I'm saying? He introduced me to Large Professor. I used to go to Casino Boulevard. I met Q-Tip over there. You know what I'm saying? Mike Geronimo. People like that. Actually, my first client was Large Professor.
Damn.
That was my first client. Yeah, he was stuck in an EMI publishing deal, and he never entered out of his EMI publishing deal. So say he signed up in the '90s or maybe after the main source or whatever, and whatever music he was doing, they were taking in his Schedule A of songs and putting it under the EMI schedule for collection. And maybe around 04, 05, I brought him to this lawyer named Wallace Collins, who was probably the first lawyer that I was using. And he got him out the EMI deal where they wouldn't take his Schedule A no more, and where he could be independent to, be his own publisher and do whatever he wanted after that. But that Paulie, Large Professor, was probably my first client that I could call. Yeah.
That's dope, man. So what was your first impression when you met Pun?
But besides how big he was, I just, I was kind of, like, yo, man, this is that guy on record, because by then he had a couple of records. He might have had his album out and stuff like that. I was just like, I wasn't really saying that. I was just in the studio. I was just like, yo, this guy's fucking dope as fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I can't really recall, but I just knew he was, a dope artist. You know what I'm saying? I knew he was one of the best. He was one of my favorites then.
Right.
Yeah.
What about that asshole Cuban Link? Shout out to Cuban, my brother.
Yeah, I messed with Cuban a little bit more. I like when he I used to see him around the studio around the Pun era, but then when he was doing his own solo album, he had a studio when he was trying to do his own solo album. I was in the studio with him a couple of times because my man was trying to shop him some beats.
Oh, for 24K.
Yeah. Gotcha. So I might have came to the studio 3-4 times, something like that. But once again, my peoples was more in connection with them, and I was just more the background, just being quiet.
Mm-hmm.